Hello, everyone, and welcome to Point of Purchase episode 16, our very first show of 2022. My name is Trisha Williams. I'm the managing partner and client success leader at GeekSpeak Commerce, which is an e-commerce services company that helps our clients to grow their online business. So today's episode is all about incentivized ratings and reviews, including how brands and retailers are using incentivized review campaigns to drive sales and loyalty. We're also going to be talking about the right way to manage these campaigns without breaking any laws or rules. But before we dive in, for anyone who may be new to the show, I'll give you a bit of a background. Point of Purchase, or POP, is a live web series presented by GeekSpeak Commerce. And in each episode, we dig into topics surrounding the retail and e-com ecosystem. Everything from industry news to technology, best practices, business strategies, and more. We tap into our own experiences as an e-com services provider, and we bring in experiences from other experts in the field. You can catch us live on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube to join in on the conversation. So please engage with us today during the show. You can enter any questions or comments you may have in the comments field, or just drop us a line to say hello. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so let's get into it. Our topic today is real reviews, real impact, growing shopper confidence and sales with incentivized ratings and reviews. So our guest today, who I'll introduce in just a second, is the president of Shopper Army, a review generation company backed by the consumer research firm BrandSpark. With a curated community of over 250,000 real shoppers in North America, Shopper Army is able to deliver high-value review campaigns to the world's leading brands. So it's no secret that product reviews are a really important component of the product display page. So if you think about how you shop online yourself, you're likely to read and be influenced by reviews before making a purchase. I know that I am for sure. In fact, 50% of shopping experiences are impacted by the appearance of a positive review. And beyond that, 74% of shoppers say they search online reviews before making a purchase in store. So the worlds are really blending there. Though it's such a critical component in the shopping experience, it's also the area in which a brand and a retailer really has the least control. So how are companies making the most of consumer product reviews? Many are leveraging incentivized ratings and reviews campaigns. So joining me to provide more insight into the world of incentivized ratings and reviews is Robert Levy, president of Shopper Army and BrandSpark International. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Trisha.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. So let's kick things off with learning a little bit more about you. Can you share a bit about your background, Robert?
Sure. My background started off in marketing with a Bachelor of Commerce. Then I went into law school, became a lawyer, and then shifted away back into marketing and was a VP branding in a multi-brand restaurant company before starting BrandSpark International in 2001. So we're proud to have made it to 20 years now, into our 21st year. And BrandSpark runs a boutique market research firm with some of Canada's leading companies. We do a lot of research around new products and innovation, omni-channel brand positioning. And we also anchor the Best New Product Awards and BrandSpark Most Trusted Awards, two of Canada's leading consumer-voted, research-backed awards. One celebrating and recognizing new product innovation, and another one recognizing those brands that are most trusted by Canadians. And then more recently, about 6 years ago now, we started Shopper Army to really get ahead and help brands move into e-commerce, as we knew from our omni-channel insights that e-commerce was going to grow even before the advent of COVID. And of course, COVID has just accelerated what was already an unstoppable trend. So that's where Shopper Army kind of completes the picture in our brand services portfolio.
That's amazing. Thanks for that. It sounds like you touch on a lot of different areas, but really and truly it's all, based in a foundation of data. And that's something that a lot of brands and retailers are always clamoring for, right? Data. So it's important that your company is able to provide that insight.
It's interesting because you use the words that are often used, but there's data. We have so much data. Sometimes we have too much data. Then you use the word insight, and I think that's how we distinguish ourselves. It's about taking data and insight and turning it into stories that are actionable. And this is what's been exciting about the e-commerce world, because, like you said, I think at the beginning, brands are losing a bit of control when it comes to the area of digital commerce and e-commerce, and
Right.
that's what's so exciting for consumers. And so, what's been an eye-opening experience for me with the digital reviews, ratings and reviews, and incentivized reviews, it's really also brought back the connection between the legal framework, so Competition Bureau laws, and marketing, and being able to create that bridge between the consumer and the brands, and also even within companies, between the marketing groups and the legal group, has been a thrill for me to actually be able to justify the whole journey that I took. It actually all came together in this crazy world, and we've seen a lot of around influencers and ad standards, and that's an area that is getting more and more attention from the Competition Bureau. So brands need to know that reviews are important, but they also have to be done properly, or there is potential risk, and there are requirements to be met, and
Right.
standards to be followed, and that's going to become more and more important over the next little while.
Absolutely. And with all the activity happening in the e-commerce world, you must be a very popular person right now. So, but we'll get into some of those details in a bit. So, when we think about product reviews, we usually think of organic reviews, right? Where a consumer buys a product and then chooses to leave a review based on their individual experience. But in a lot of cases, brands are actually working to drive this activity themselves. The average consumer doesn't know this, but brands are actually behind some of this activity. Can you talk about what this looks like? How exactly do incentivized review campaigns work from both brands for both brands and consumers?
So the fundamental difference with an organic review and an incentivized review is that a consumer would be either provided a product for free or a rebate, for example. And Shopper Army can either provide a product for free where it's mailed out to a consumer, and basically they are asked to try the product, make sure they're given enough time to try the product, and then provide an honest review in exchange for receiving that product. And the key part is to make sure that's disclaimed, and that the Competition Bureau calls it the material connection. That's kind of an expression you're going to hear a lot. And you just have to make sure that that material connection is clearly explained to the consumer, so they understand, was the product given for free? Was it a rebate? Was it a discount? Was it a contest? And as long as that is done, that makes the incentivized review basically follow the requirements that are there. And at that point, the consumer's experience can be fully explained to other consumers. And that's really the difference between an organic review and an incentivized review. And what's critical is to make sure that the incentivized reviews are really not biased in a way that is
Right.
not clearly explained to the person reading it, so that somebody, it's important that not just positive reviews are asked for. It's
Right.
important that all reviews are actually shared, positive and negative. And I think that's the part that we've really come a long way, where the brands realize that having a full explanation of this consumer experience is what matters, and it's helpful for the brand and helpful for the retailer as well.
For sure. Authenticity is key. And I think shoppers are a lot more savvy these days, and they can very easily pluck out, fake reviews. But we'll dig into sort of weighing the value of incentivized reviews against organic reviews as well. We'll touch on that and get some insights from you on that piece. But before we do that, how are brands driving multiple reviews on different retailer sites? So they may, kick things off with a singular campaign, but those same reviews are being pushed to multiple retailer sites. How does that work?
So that can work in a number of ways. So one way can be that, for example, we can engage our Shopper Army members, and we can ask them to go post reviews on multiple sites. So for example, if a brand would like to have 25 reviews in Walmart, 25 reviews in Shoppers Drug Mart, 25 reviews in Costco, we can basically recruit our members, and the mission, as we call it in Shopper Army language, would then be to try this product and then to post their review on a retailer that we ask them to post on. So that's one way. Another way is using these technology platforms that have been developed by companies like Bazaar Voice and Power Reviews. And what they've done is they've created relationships with different retailers. So you could have Bazaar Voice. We're a Bazaar Voice partner, so they're Bazaar Voice works with retailers, agencies like ours, and also brands. And in this case, for example, if a client wanted reviews posted on Walmart, let's say Canadian Tire, Costco, we can basically engage a member to give us a review for that product. And because we are connected to the Bazaar Voice system, as long as the brand also is connected to Bazaar Voice, we can have that single review then be posted to multiple retailer sites working through the technology platform. So there's a number of ways to get the reviews on. Sometimes it's really efficient, especially when there's multiple retailers. It also means you don't have to double up the reviews. Sometimes it really does make sense for the clients to post directly. And ultimately, what we do in each case is really advise our clients, because we work for the brands, what is the best solution, what's most efficient, what's most cost effective, but always making sure that we're following all the required guidelines.
No, absolutely. I guess there's a few players in this space, but they all serve different functions in this ecosystem. So I think it's important for brands and retailers to really understand how you play nicely together, right? So
I think there's huge opportunities. You and I were talking the other day, because we gather a lot of insight. And what was exciting to me about GeekSpeak and what you're doing in terms of pushing, the envelope for your clients to make the buying experience as successful as possible for both the consumers, but also for your clients, the interest on your part also to understand the data and the insights that we are getting from those missions, and how to continually make the shopping experience better. And I think we're going to hear a lot more about kind of this idea of experience commerce, where I think retailers like Walmart, and we'll talk a little bit more about Walmart later, but are really trying to make the experience better and better. And so I think there's this, it's a continuous improvement journey, whether it's going to be also visual material and videos, and in addition to really good reviews, I think we're going to just see a lot more evolution around making that experience better and better.
Absolutely. And you're right. We did have a good conversation about that. And I think there's an incredible amount of intel that you can get from those reviews, and then, incorporate that into your product listing on the digital shelf, and perhaps even into product improvement. Who knows? Like, consumers are telling us every day what they want and what they don't want, right? So,
and that's what we get pretty passionate about, and that's where being research backed and having access to the experts at BrandSpark when it comes into things like targeting and the insights and sentiment analysis, and really going ratings and reviews. It's kind of just the beginning for us, but then it's what else can we do that improves it for the consumer and ultimately for the brand.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Amazon specifically for a minute. It's kind of hard to ignore them, right? Now, over the years, they've actually done a good job at clamping down on fake reviews. But can you share a bit about how Amazon operates in their Vine program?
Sure. So their incentivized review program, they branded Vine, which is an incentivized review. So they have people who are recruited to try products for free, and give their opinion. And I think what's been good about Amazon is I think they help set the expectations of consumers for reviews, for were expectations about shipping, a lot of things about that interface, which they were real pioneers. And I think now what we're seeing is that other retailers, consumers now expect it, and they're now finding what they need with other retailers. So Amazon does not allow third-party incentivized reviews. They do allow incentivized reviews, but in an Amazon way, it has to go through Amazon. I mean, Amazon will still, request a review if products are purchased. That's still possible,
Right.
but the incentivized review programs that we provide for other retailers is not available. I think it's one of those areas that I would be happy to have that conversation with Amazon in terms of following certain guidelines. There's probably some things that they are missing that would actually enhance the platform. And I think maybe it's an opportunity for other retailers to catch up.
For sure. And I think, with Amazon previously, it was sort of like the wild, wild west, right? Anything was happening. And so that's why they really had to clamp down and just have that singular Vine program established.
Yeah.
So let's dig into a point that we touched on a little bit earlier. I'd like to talk about authenticity of reviews. So how do you ensure that incentivized reviews are in fact true and, a reflection of an authentic consumer experience?
That's a really important question, and it's the heart of everything we do. So I think it goes to the expectations of consumers from the beginning when they're recruited and given the opportunity. I mean, it works really well with new products. That's where there's a real need, obviously. We've been working in the area of helping brands, build awareness and success of launching new products, because when there's a new product, Canadians, 7 in 10 Canadians love trying new products. But we also know from 20 years of research that even after a year of promoting a product, you rarely get above awareness of 30%. So this is where, reviews have a big impact. It's great for retailers, great for brands. So I think it's about recruiting people that they know that they have to provide an honest review. We make sure that they prove that they have to have tried the product and satisfy that they really have tried this product. We believe strongly it should be with a full-size product, not a sample product, because sometimes you get a little sample, someone will ask you for a review, but how can that be an authentic experience when you really haven't, tried the product, let's say over a week, or, you just try it a little bit. So I think we built 9 best practice guidelines actually to make sure that the reviews are honest. We don't ask people to post only positive reviews. We also encourage consumers to include what we call a critical observation. And this is probably one of the biggest drivers of trust, is that every product isn't for everyone. And we know, and we'll get into this, I think, a little bit later, is that in an organic review, you tend to be more likely to post when you've had a really bad experience or a really good, but even more so when it's really bad. So if there's a critical observation that can help a consumer know that, oh, that's a good product, but not for me. It could be, let's say, I like scent in a laundry detergent, and this product is designed for people who have, a certain kind of skin sensitivity, and it doesn't have scent. Well, then it's not right for you, and you'll just be disappointed if you get it. And so being able to tease out those critical observations of what really worked well and what perhaps wasn't as ideal for that consumer is really what creates overall that authentic review, with a proper disclaimer that always has to be at the beginning. And we remind consumers that they're really being requested for their honest opinions. So I think there's a number of steps that are important to make sure that in this world of incentivized reviews, you don't want them to be considered fake reviews, because that's where the Competition Bureau is going to definitely be paying more attention. But incentivized reviews do play a role in that middle zone where, again, not every product gets enough reviews. New products don't have reviews. And that's where, properly done, they provide a fuller picture to consumers, retailers, and brands.
You're absolutely right. So I think those critical observations, the technical term, are what really lend to the authenticity of a review, for sure. So it's perhaps not something a brand might want to say specifically, but as a consumer, I really love the smell of lavender or vanilla, and that's the kind of information that you sort of get. Even though it's incentivized, it's organic in a way too. It's based on that specific reviewer's experience, right?
Right. And it can be like, I love this recipe, and I'm a big fan of cilantro, but I know cilantro is not for everyone, right?
Exactly.
So it's not that it's a good product or a bad product. And that's the part that I think brands and have really come a long way to allow an organic conversation, if you want, even when it's an incentivized review, which can have pros and cons. That's a big part also of what the Competition Bureau wants to ensure, that the overall e-commerce ecosystem is trusted by consumers. The pros and cons are important, and that's where it's sometimes challenging for brands to see anything negative about their product. But ultimately, if it's in context, it can help
For
really
sure.
identify the right target market. And that's exciting that we've gotten to that point now, where that wasn't always the case in the earlier days.
For sure. I think those are definitely learning opportunities for the brands, right? All right. So, Robert, I'm going to ask you to lean on your law degree now. You've spoken about the Competition Bureau a few times. So, how does the Competition Bureau come into play, and what are some of the issues brands should be aware of when it comes to the law surrounding consumer feedback?
So the Competition Bureau is very clear that they are very concerned about fake reviews, and those are reviews that do not have a proper material disclosure. And they're very concerned about proper disclosure. There's been a lot of work done with influencers. For example, if we see sponsored influencer posts now that say hashtag ad or partner, things like that. But it's much more complex in the world of reviews, because these reviews can be posted on a retail site. They can go through Bazaar Voice. They can be picked up by Google, because that's how people find. Then they can follow around, and then they can go onto the brand site. Then you can have a reviewer who actually is asked to post their review on social. So all of a sudden, these reviews can find their way onto multiple platforms where the brands are not in control. And so what's
Right.
critical is to make sure that the steps are taken in place, so things like the disclosure, and that an honest full disclosure is always showing up, always has to be at the beginning, and that ultimately any consumer will know that this has been incentivized, what the nature of the incentive is, because otherwise the Competition Bureau is going to consider this to be misleading advertising. And so it is something that is very important. We've done a webinar to the Canadian Bar Association to kind of go through what are those, the requirements, the guidelines under the Competition Bureau, and then how, the steps that you really have to take, both from a process point of view, but also from a disclosure point of view, to make sure that it's going to satisfy. We actually have presented to the Competition Bureau, which was a bit of a thrill, to be honest, to do that. And so I think we want to really be part of getting that message out,
Right.
that these steps are important. And ultimately, it's an area where the brands have not taken as much control for it. And we believe that that's really it's something they need to, just like something else. But what's cool about it is, when you think of a bias with incentivized reviews, so manufacturer ads and sponsored influencer posts are considered even more biased than an incentivized rating and review. So it's not about the fact that there's a bias. Like you say, the consumers are pretty savvy now. But when there's content and information that's of value to them, they will seek it out in multiple ways, even by looking at a manufacturer's TV ad. It's biased because it's paid for by the manufacturer.
Mhm.
It may lead you to do some more research, but if it catches your attention, then we know obviously that kind of advertising still works and is still effective.
Right. I'm going to dig in a little bit here, just actually purely out of my own interest, because it seems like, with the growth of TikTok, there are a lot of influencers on there moving a lot of product. And I'm just curious if the rules to me seem to be a lot looser there. Can you comment on that and what's happening in that space?
Yeah, I think it was the first area where there's an association called Ad Standards, and they worked with advertisers and they work with the Association of Canadian Advertisers to set up some clear guidelines for sponsored influencer posts. So I think there are clear guidelines in terms of disclosure, and the main thing is to make sure that an influencer that is sponsored fully discloses and that you can get it. And I think that's come a long way.
Hmm.
So that part on an influencer, and you also have the brands, because you usually have a few influencers, the brands are able to control the communication as well pretty quickly to make sure that nothing is misleading. But when you have a few influencers posting about a new product, that's one thing. But then when you have 30, 50, 60, 100 consumers now that are posting about your product, then you've lost that control, which is good. That's what makes it trustworthy, because otherwise it's just a sponsored post from the brand, which is also valuable, but that's a different
Right.
marketing channel. So I think that's where the learnings from how to disclose for influencers, which is important, now we're adopting that and enhancing that for the medium, which is incentivized ratings and reviews, because it overlaps, there's less control,
Hmm.
but we know it's actually even more important because incentivized reviews are seen as less biased than incentivized influencer posts. So even within the world
Yeah.
of sponsored and sponsoring, reviews actually carry more weight, just for all the reasons that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff because the landscape is changing a lot, for sure. So let's switch up a little bit and talk about some best practices. So, what would you say are some of the best practices brands should be aware of when utilizing incentivized ratings and reviews?
So I think it's a matter of understanding who their target is, and if a lot of brands do a lot of research and a lot of preparation about who the target is. And I think what's good is to be very clear on who the target is, what are the proper ways that the product can be used or enjoyed or service or anything like that. And I think it's a matter of making sure they're working with a supplier that is going through the steps, and it's that there's a proper screener, and really that they're not using any platforms that are suppressing negative reviews, that are promising to only provide positive reviews, that are incentivizing people based on that. And that's the part that honestly is really challenging sometimes, because not all products end up getting great ratings and reviews. And
Right.
so what is important is that the brands and the teams understand that when there are some issues that come, to actually like roll up your sleeves and dig into them, because there's probably some very good learning, like you had mentioned, in terms of
Right.
how the product pages are explained, or the targeting, or product improvement. Sometimes ultimately there's some problems. We had a really interesting challenge from a brand that was launching a product that was reformulated to be more sustainable
Mm.
and more environmentally sustainable, which is another area that the Competition Bureau is also paying a lot of attention to. And so that's a really interesting convergence of incentivized ratings and reviews, e-commerce, and sustainability, because we know that it's on the radar screen of a lot of brands. So we as a company have been tracking, consumer attitudes towards the environment, sustainability,
Mm.
organic, for years and years. We have a huge database of insights, and it's a little bit more complicated, because sometimes consumers care about the environment, but they don't think it's their responsibility. But also some products may perform differently. So in this case, organic reviews actually were quite negative on this product. And when we were able to target the right people and explain the product to them, and their expectations, which are clear, because this product, to be sustainable, still had slight differences from what people might have been used to. And so that's where, the organic reviews together with the incentivized reviews provided a full picture to consumers. And now I think if you're someone who does care about the environment and you're willing to accept your product to be a little different, this product is right for you. If you're a rejecter and
Right.
you don't care about the environment, and unfortunately there's still a percentage of people who fall into that camp, and as in all camps, then this product isn't necessarily going to be right for you for now. And so this is where, as we see like a segmentation from early adopters to that kind of middle group, that the later to start, and then you always end up with some rejectors. So this is where brands can really take advantage of understanding where they are in this cycle based on their product category, and therefore making sure that we match that with people that are in the right stage as well. And then I think that will make sure that everything is properly balanced, and that ultimately the experience for consumers is helpful, straightforward. And it's important, because if consumers feel that a review is fake, it has a negative impact not only on the brand, on the product, but also the retailer. So it's actually a really, really big deal, and especially because you don't have control over it the way you would on a TV spot or even an influencer sponsored post. So these steps are quite important, but hopefully we actually make it easy to make sure none of the pitfalls are actually happening.
I can totally see how some of those conversations might be a little bit challenging when brands are faced with the truth or truthful feedback from consumers. So if I could be a fly on the wall in some of those conversations, I would imagine they're not easy to navigate at times.
We're really lucky because, in a way, sometimes when the reviews are negative, we're a little bit nervous about sharing it with the brand, because you're not sure. But lately we've had a couple of experiences, and to our great relief and pleasure of working with great companies that we work with, they go, oh, you know what? We kind of had picked up some of that as well, but we weren't sure. And they were really appreciative that we were able to dig in. Was it a demographic? Was it young people? Was it, this one product, which was not very expensive, beautifully packaged. It was a food product and super, super convenient. But you could see how it could overpromise perhaps to, a foodie that, this, and what would you expect for a product that, nothing can do everything? It was super quick, not expensive. And all of a sudden we were able to target that a younger demographic, that on the run, convenience, lunch. This product fit the need. If you're thinking of, spending the time to produce a gourmet dinner, well, of course you're going to be disappointed, but that's not what the product was designed to do. So I think that's where we can really start to use this. And that's why I'm excited to work with your team as well on examples where those kinds of learnings can really make the commerce experience that much better.
For sure. And I think if brands are willing to listen, there's a lot of great information that could be leveraged, right, to improve their presence on the digital shelf, or as we said earlier, even the product itself. So
absolutely,
great insight. So before we get on to our next question, I do want to take a second just to remind our viewers that they can drop us questions in the comments field on whatever platform you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you. Let's challenge Robert with some questions here today. All right. So according to BrandSpark, to a BrandSpark study, 50% of shopper experiences were impacted by the appearance of a positive review, which is great news for brands who receive a lot of positive feedback. But unfortunately, BrandSpark has also found that consumers are much likely to leave a review for a product when they have a negative experience. How do incentivized reviews address this? And I think you kind of touched on a bit of this earlier, but if you can elaborate a bit.
Sure. I think we can use our own experience, like you did before, to know when are we likely to post a review. And so our research, when we did a deep dive consumer endorsement study, as part of our research into the Competition Bureau, and we kind of spent about 6 months really digging into this issue of incentivized reviews and the requirements of the Competition Bureau. So we actually did a custom study to gain additional information. And so I think the key thing that we were able to quantify is, without a doubt, people will naturally post a review of a product or service when they have an overwhelmingly negative experience. That for sure. Twice as much as when they have an overwhelmingly positive experience. And generally, when the experience is fine, they're not posting. So that's really was the big, key insight that supports what's missing for consumers. And then when you think of new products which don't have any reviews at all. So I think when incentivized reviews, if they're properly done and it's a real experience and the material connection is there and the pros and cons and critical observations and all of that information is bundled in a way that makes it easy to read, so you still want this thing not to be a book, it provides a complete picture. And that's why we think there is a role for incentivized reviews. They do not, and that's where ultimately the Competition Bureau also realizes that there is a role and it's an important part of the ecosystem. But having said that, we've all seen examples where, either we've been asked or something where we always say, not sure that, that's really great. And so that's where we're trying to make sure that everyone who is in this area is following, the high practice standards that are required. Because the problem is that it affects everyone when there's a negative quality or negative experience. I think it's something that ultimately has a negative impact on everyone who's working in this space. So that's where it's important we all follow really the best practice guidelines.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like when you do have a negative experience, it's almost like you want everybody to know about it. But less so perhaps when you have an okay experience or a positive experience even.
Right.
Not to put you on the spot, but I was just thinking, do you have a sense of how many shoppers actually will write a review organically? Like what percentage?
Yeah, I think it's not a very high percentage. It's basically under 10%, and that's even when requested. So it would be even much lower, probably under 5%. But it's somewhere between 5 and 10% when a verified purchaser would be followed up with hey, we know you bought this. Would you mind posting a review? That's still under 10%. And then in terms of the overall volume of organic native reviews, certainly in CPG, it would be even less than 5%. So that's where there is a role to play, both prompted and unprompted, but it's not going to provide enough content that will be fully taking advantage of the e-commerce landscape and what consumers are now expecting. They want reviews. They want a certain quantity. They want to be able to sort them by recent. They want to know that they came from Canadians. They want to see the high ones, the low ones. And that needs a certain volume for that to be valuable. Because again, if you have one review, it could be organic, but it's not going to necessarily. And the problem is a lot of times some of the reviews are really short. And again, we have done a lot of work around the fact that making sure that they're a certain length, because that actually ensures, first of all, the person knows what they're talking about. Secondly, that there's enough information, because again, it works, it's great. It's, that almost becomes less trusted, even if it's organic, versus an incentivized review, which has the kind of content that we've been talking about so far.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I guessed that the percentage was fairly low, but in and around 5% is lower than expected for sure.
I'm glad I checked that number because I didn't know that question was coming.
Keep you on your toes there, Robert. So let's talk about that same BrandSpark study that I mentioned earlier. So it also says that 74% of consumers say they search online reviews before making in-store purchases. So conversion is impacted not only online, but in store as well. Is there any way to track in-store sales based on reviews at all?
So I think like any traditional media, there are always challenges with pinpointing, which actual touch point led to a sale or led to a conversion, as you well know.
Yeah.
I think, there are a number of opportunities because reviews are scanned online. I think we've done a BrandSpark custom study actually that showed that we were able to show a direct link between a consumer looking at a certain review and actually buying a more expensive product. So we were able to track a conversion to a more premium product as a direct result of the review. So we've done custom studies that have been able to prove that. And we know that there are different tools, whether it's a shelf talker or, even in flyers, where reviews can be made available with technology such as a QR code. We know people are shopping with their smartphones in the store. If there's something that catches their attention, maybe around a new product, and consumers are given an easy way to connect, to get more information, to read reviews, learn something about a product, then again, that's another way to track, because again, that they're at the point of purchase and you can use some of that visual material. So I think there's a number of ways to track it, but we've definitely done some research that have shown an increase in the basket value. And we also know that for new products, again, that's one of the ways to get someone to try a new product. And once they try a new product, they're likely to buy it again. And that's good for the retailer as well. And certainly with the challenges I think a lot of brands have with private label, innovation and new products. And, that's why we're still seeing, things like a related business, consumer voted awards, also really valuable for helping consumers discover products. So things like reviews, consumer voted award, anything that tracks back to the consumer really has the most weight. And we have a number of different case studies that have really proven that.
Absolutely. Well, omni-channel is real. Shoppers don't just shop in store or online. There's definitely convergence there. And it's funny because in our business where we create content, in the early days, we used to try to replicate the in-store experience. But nowadays, if you're standing in the store, just like you called out, I want to, scan a QR code, or I'm standing looking at, two different products and I wonder what the reviews are. So then you go online in store to try to get that information. So that convergence is definitely real and is playing out in so many different ways every day.
And the flip side is, with people now using click and collect and delivery, and you can just see the retailers that are enhancing their digital ordering platforms, remembering your list, your most favorite, suggesting things. I think there's still huge opportunities, because I was talking with my son the other day, and we would love to have new products suggested for us that we might like, and find a way to discover them. You're looking around, you're relaxed anyways, and so I think, and that's where reviews and knowing my preferences, because what I'm buying every week online, so you have that information. I think we're going to see more and more integration of consumer content as well, even on the platforms such as Walmart's and PC Express, that are really just becoming, I think, used and relied upon more and more. And even after the pandemic, I think I'm definitely going to continue using these platforms, because they've become so convenient and so easy and predictable now. Once people got over that hump, but now, and I think that's where I think we'll see a lot more blending of consumer content and these sites being also more effective media as well.
For sure. I think our consumer behavior has changed forever. That's for sure. So Robert, I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in, which is great, and I want to get to them. So I think we're going to hustle up a little bit on the questions that I've prepared. But I want to get into this one. Can you speak to any changes in the industry brands and retailers should be aware of? Are there any key players in the e-com space who are really pushing reviews as a content requirement?
So we see Walmart really stepping up their game. You've talked about Amazon. We know, the role that they played. But what's interesting about Walmart being the true omni-channel player, certainly for CPG, and we're actually, full disclosure, happy to announce that Shopper Army is now actually an approved Walmart incentivized ratings and review partner. So Walmart really embraced the work that we did as part of understanding the legal landscape and our best practices. And they are definitely trying to be a leader in the whole experience commerce area. So what's interesting about that is we can really see that they are encouraging brands to make sure that all of their products have proper reviews. They really do care about the quality of those reviews. They're building powerful algorithms like all retailers. Again, ratings, reviews, all feature as part of the algorithm. So it affects your search, it affects your positioning there. And it's been interesting to really get a bit of a glimpse into just how serious Walmart is, both for their national brands, their private brands, but also for their marketplace brands. So there's a lot going on, and we definitely see retailers like them. We think others will follow. So some of the other grocery stores have not really embraced and added that to their platforms. We expect that they will. So yeah, we're definitely seeing the retailers increasing the priority, the focus. Walmart has a whole department really working on it. And for us, it's been great because we have these long-standing relationships with brands. We've been a Bazaar Voice partner for many years, and our platform has performed in a competitive way at a very high level compared to others. And now to also, we have the consumer, but now the retailer. So we're really sitting at the middle of all the key players around e-commerce that really have an impact. And so that's exciting. And then just making sure we keep our eye on the legal framework means we can navigate where this needs to be and where it needs to go.
Amazing. Well, first of all, congratulations on the partnership. That's outstanding. And I'd agree with you, even with our work that we do with brands in terms of content creation, we're definitely seeing that, Walmart has elevated those content requirements. And it's great to see that they're leading the charge there. And you're absolutely right. I think a lot of the other retailers are going to be following suit very soon. So there may be another partnership in the wings. Who knows? But
absolutely. Yeah. Well, you can just check out PC Express's homepage, and they're proudly using the BrandSpark Most Trusted Award logo, which we're very proud of. So I think we just see a lot of dedication to the consumer at the center of what brands like Walmart and PC Express are doing, and that we think is ultimately great.
Absolutely. I mean, the consumer has to be, at the forefront of that experience.
Exactly.
Awesome. So with reviews playing such a major factor in search and sales, one thing brands struggle with is the ability to generate these reviews in the first place, right? So especially at product launch, if you've got a brand new product, what do you do? How can brands use incentivized review campaigns to kickstart sales?
So if you're going to kickstart sales with a new product, there really is only one way. You have to mail that product out or get that product into the hands of the consumer because it's not available yet. So really what we see leading brands doing, and we work with leading brands, and Shopper Army also works in the US. We have 100,000 members, and we do incentivized ratings and reviews across North America, and sometimes for brands across both Canada and the US. So what we see with leading brands is they've really built this into their new product launch process. So 6 months before, and brands work really far ahead. So they basically engage us 6 months before. Products are still confidential, and we set up a whole plan to make sure those products get into the hands of consumers. They have enough time. We then collect the reviews, and we have them ready for syndication immediately upon launch. And that's really the ideal situation, so that right upon launch, there is a certain minimum number of reviews that helps those brands and break through, because launching new products takes a lot of work, and it takes, quite frankly, more time than generally the brands allow. Because we're, even with Best New Product Awards, we've just announced our 2022 winners. These are products launched in 2021. A lot of the brands can't even remember what they did in June of 2021 because they're like 6 months ahead or 12 months ahead. But a lot of these products, consumers don't even know they've been launched because they're still new to consumers. So I think the whole product life cycle is, we've learned it all in as part of marketing school or business school, but it's really a thing. And then we take this position that of really looking at it 6 months before launch, all the way through to at least 2 years. And again, a lot of work that we've done, and this is where ratings and reviews properly done, they work in the background. It's something that's there when the consumer needs it, and if it's properly optimized by folks like yourself, and it's built into so it comes up on search and product pages, it's really going to help make that launch much stronger, which is critical. So that really good products, because there's nothing worse than a really great product that then ends up getting delisted just because it didn't have enough trial or it didn't have enough, momentum. And there's a lot of work that goes into every one of these product launches, and like you said, a lot of money. So we want to make sure that the really good ones break through, and that it's a bit of a, you got to look at this over the product life cycle over a couple of years and build in support all the way through while you're busy launching the next new product. And I think that's what we're seeing. Leading brands that are really at the top of their game, that's the way they're looking at it now.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we've already discussed how important reviews are in driving conversion, right? So if you're launching a brand new product and you're going to hope for the less than 5% of shoppers to write an organic review, you're really going to be waiting for a very long time to build any traction. So
Exactly.
I think, kickstarting sales with a review program totally makes sense.
I agree.
All right. So let's say, a brand is convinced and they want to get started with an incentivized ratings and review program with Shopper Army. What's next?
So the first thing they need to do is call Megan Ribko from our team at Shopper Army, because they will then be guaranteed a superb experience. Because basically we just need to know what's the product, if it's a new product, what the launch date is, get the details so we can really come up with a proposal to make sure if we have to send products out. After launch, of course, Shopper Army has also built a rebate capacity or capability so that we can actually offer a rebate. The advantage of that is we can get consumers to shop online, in which case reviews can often come in within a few days because they get their product, or if they shop in store, it can be even faster because they pick up the product and then reviews come up within a few days. The cool thing is that even throughout the launch, if the brand is interested, we can even report on how difficult it was to find online, how difficult it was to find in store, because we're actually getting our members to go, and they're really engaged. And so they're happy to provide that feedback. So it's really just about getting us the details, the launch date, the retailers that you want. The nice thing about our new Walmart partnership now is we can access the Bazaar Voice syndication system for brands that may not be direct clients of Bazaar Voice now, and we have access to the Walmart system. So we have different flexibilities depending on the retailers, a special basically package deal for Walmart that provides huge value as well. And basically we just take care of the rest, and hopefully we get brands also engaged to take advantage of the screener opportunity, and then the data. We provide a live dashboard as the program is launching, then keeping track of it, and a wrap up to really give you a sense of what we've learned and what to take advantage of. And then the cool thing is it can even, create testimonial based ads and really use it even for marketing purposes,
Right.
for the product pages. So I think it's very powerful. The ROI is proven, and the retailers are going to be knocking on everyone's door. So I think it's just something now that I think it's interesting that companies create silos sometimes. And I think what's going to happen is this will not just become an e-commerce function, it'll become really part of the brand function. And I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. A lot of departments are merging, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
much
great.
crossover.
I think it's just another channel that unlocks a lot of potential that can be used, by marketing, for e-commerce, for sales, for insights, especially with a company like us, because we're an insights company. So we approach everything, in a more structured, systematic way. We can compare it to benchmarks. We can actually put it into context, beyond just putting, reviews up on a product page.
Okay, awesome. Well, to recap that, if you're interested in an incentivized program, reach out to Megan Ribko, who's great.
You can reach out to me too.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to anyone, but yeah, I'll probably direct you to Megan as well.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm going to pick up some questions from the audience. So let's take this one from Facebook. What about including customer pictures in reviews? Do you find that this helps?
Yes, pictures help. Videos, it's a little bit more complicated because honestly, we pioneered and we piloted a lot with videos, and sometimes, watching one of our members brush their teeth for a minute, it's a little bit like watching paint dry. So it may be authentic, but this is where I think, because of Instagram and the world of, visual, pictures of product experiences, pictures definitely can help. That's something that already we can get onto Walmart, is already part of what Shopper Army does. We do collect pictures, we share those pictures. Those pictures can be used both for insights, but also for marketing and for product pages. And they're very helpful. I think what's important is that when reviews go onto Facebook or onto Instagram, we have to make sure that the disclaimers follow as well. And that's one of the potential pitfalls, because again, it's a different world, different medium, but we make sure that when our members are posting, we ask them to make sure to post so that it's very clear that it's an incentivized review as well.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing pictures posted, ones that are not high gloss and super edited, and you see the product in reality. So you're right, they're super powerful.
They're great, and those work really well. Video's not always so well.
Right. All right, I'm going to jump to another question here from LinkedIn. What are some creative ways brands or retailers are leveraging reviews they receive, if any? Maybe some programs that you're aware of?
Yeah, I think we've seen print ads definitely suggest using them in the flyer. So flyers, we've done a lot of research over the years over the impact of a flyer, whether that is the print flyer or the digital flyer, and they still are very much influential for Canadians, even more so than Americans. And so we know that certainly when it comes to new products, that's one of the ways that the early adopters will always be looking for any kind of source of information for new products, including the flyer. And we're seeing, the integration of digital flyers into the retailer platforms as well. So I believe any brand that is using the flyer, whether it's digital or print, we've seen certain use of, whether it's awards or our awards or potential testimonials that'll really catch attention and work. And whether it's, QR codes, whether it's print ads as well, that just use, the ad and the star and the testimonial. And we've seen brands use testimonial-based ads on their socials. So for example, Tetley Tea took a testimonial from one of our Shopper Army missions. We created the testimonial-based ad for them with a badge, the Tested by Real People badge, which is one of the features of working with Shopper Army, is an access to a badge that's influential, because we kind of pioneered that. And it was really effective and it really stood out. It's very simple marketing messaging, but one that is quite impactful. So definitely using it through social, and I think some of even the more traditional media is going to be very, very effective.
Yeah, I'm glad you use that example because we're actually seeing that as well with a lot of the brands that we work with, where we're creating those assets for them to be used on the different social platforms or even in flyers, as you called out. So you're absolutely right. I think brands and retailers are getting really creative in how they can um, repurpose a lot of these reviews, right, and really push their marketing and sales efforts.
Yeah, no, I'm excited that you talk about it that way because that's the ROI because of the asset that's being created. We're
Mhm.
still only, it's like an iceberg. We're just touching the surface of, how these can be used and then the value that they can provide for brands. Because then again, as you start to, brands that work with us now and build a critical mass of products, well, then all of a sudden you can have like an early warning detection as well. When you can see, oh, normally our products are scoring here or having this reaction, this one isn't, or it's going above. How do we leverage? How do we fix? How do we course correct? So that's the kind of things that's exciting now. Is that when you go back to one of your first points you made, is how do we turn this data actually into insight?
Absolutely. So we have covered a lot of ground here today. Thank you so much. I know I've learned a lot. So to wrap things up, we like to ask a little fun question here. Usually it's, what was your last online purchase and what was the experience like? But I'm going to tweak it a little bit for you. What was the last thing you purchased online and how did the reviews of the product play a part in your decision?
So recently, I decided I wanted to buy a standing desk, but one of these flexible standing desks because I just felt like a lot of us, I was just sitting too much. But I don't have a dedicated office, and so I needed it to be something that I could dismantle quickly as well, because it's also sometimes not good only to stand. So I was served up an ad for this beautiful looking wood desk called Harmony on Instagram. And I'm a bit of a sucker for marketing, like all of us. And I thought, wow, that's perfect. And it looks so easy to put together and it's quite beautiful. I think that would fit well. And then when I dug into it and read the reviews, the product was a good product. But one reviewer had said, if you need to take it, put it together and take it apart, it takes a little bit longer to take apart than I would have imagined. And just know it's going to take you a little bit of time. So for me, I said, oh, that's now maybe not right for me. And as beautiful as this standing desk looked, I then went to Staples, found a whole bunch of others. And then I basically was able to find one that had reviews that clearly showed this was exactly what I needed, called Mount It. And the interesting thing about reviews is not only did it shift me to a different brand, but I ended up buying it directly from the manufacturer, which was in the US, and the $75 shipping charge. And now I've become accustomed, like everyone else, to go, I never want to pay for shipping, certainly
Right.
not when I'm buying a product. But when I did the overall calculation, again, the reviews were so good that when I looked at the overall pricing, I was even willing to pay the $75 shipping charge, and it was still going to get me the product that I wanted. And it was really the reviews that guided me, because the minute I started this rabbit hole of standing desks,
Right.
choice was overwhelming. And so it was great to be able to go through, read the critical observations, and make the right decision for me. So, anyways, I hope it will be. I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah, please do. It's amazing how powerful reviews can be, and you're right. They kind of guide your actions from there, right? So, thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your time today. If our viewers want to get in touch with you, Robert, how can they do that? How do they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Robert Levy, president of BrandSpark International. You can find me through email, rlevy@brandspark.com. Happy to get contacted. And then, of course, feel free to contact Megan Ripko and ripko@shopperarmy.com. And we would love to share our best practices with you, take you through actually the full presentation, if you would like, about the Competition Bureau requirements, and also anything around omni-channel and our best practices around how to do incentivized reviews and the role that they play in the omni-channel purchase journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. Please reach out to Robert and Megan. They're a wealth of knowledge in this space, and really appreciate you joining us here on Point of Purchase. So, viewers, if you're interested in learning how to grow your business online, feel free to check us out at geekspeakcommerce.com. And of course, stay on top of those social channels for our next episode of Point of Purchase. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Robert.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye bye.